Sweden's immigration crisis is the new invader on the block. There was a time when Sweden was the poster child for the American dreamers in love with the idea of a Scandinavian utopia. It was the cool, older sibling in the European family that everyone had a bit of a crush on, even if they wouldn't admit it out loud. Skipping out on the drama of World War II, Sweden kicked back, relaxed, and grew into an economic powerhouse, all while keeping its cool with a rock-solid democracy and everyone agreeing on the important stuff. It was like the neighborhood where everyone had a key to each other's houses, top-tier healthcare, schools that actually taught you something, and equality was the name of the game. Crime was as rare as a bad meatball, and the only conflicts were about who had the best recipe for them. But later on, things have gotten a bit more, let's say, spicy. While the industrial machine is still chugging along nicely, some of the shiny parts of this Nordic star have started to look a little different. Present-day Sweden finds itself in a grim spotlight. It now holds the highest rate of gangland killings in Europe. So you can imagine the Sweden, where the only Swede thing left is the candy. Gang showdowns are now the norm, and the youngest faces are not just playing tag, they're tagged for serious crimes. The suburbs have turned into Wild West zones, where even the cops think twice. In layman's terms, these are no-go zones, where local clans rule and where first responders will not enter without flak jackets and police escort. And that's not all. As gangland violence is spreading across borders, its Scandinavian neighbors experience growing fears of ending up in what is known in Denmark as the Swedish condition. Even the Swedish government's defying an old taboo, calling in the military to back up the police. Believe it or not, Sweden's top money man, Erik Thedéen, is waving red flags like he's at a bullfight. He is telling the growing problem of shootings and bombings is so serious that it risks damaging the country's long-term economic growth. Well, when a guy who usually talks in dollars and cents starts sounding the alarm, you know it's time to sit up and listen. The chaos isn't just limited to the streets, it's seeping into Sweden's economy and education system too. A lot of Swedish nationals with entrepreneurial skills, tired of the insecurity, are packing their bags and saying goodbye to their homeland. And it's not just them. Companies are struggling to attract top talent from abroad because who wants to move to a place where chaos rules? But wait, it gets worse. Schools, once pillars of education, are now battlegrounds for ethnic tensions and outright violence. It's like a scene from a bad movie, except it's real life. And guess what? Sweden's education ranking is taking a nosedive faster than a lead balloon. For a country that prides itself on knowledge and innovation, this is a serious wake-up call. Even the big shots at the central bank are sounding the alarm bells, and government can't pretend it's not happening anymore. The heart of the crisis lies in a mix-up of policies. Imagine an open-door migration policy with zero plans to help newcomers fit in. What's the result? Neighborhoods where nearly everyone is from somewhere else, unemployment rates skyrocket, and immigrant kids end up in schools where hardly anyone, not even some teachers, speaks Swedish like a native. It's like a scene from a comedy gone wrong. And just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, here come the politicians to shake things up. That's right, even the Social Democrats. They have finally admitted we've got ourselves a national crisis on our hands. According to official statistics, Sweden's population has seen more foreigners pouring in than ketchup on fries at a fast food joint. In 2022, out of 10.61 million people, 2.14 million were foreign-born. And if we count the kids born to foreign parents right here in Sweden, that number jumps to 26%. It's like Sweden's turning into a mini United Nations. Even if the government slammed the door shut on immigration tomorrow, which, let's face it, is about as likely as winning the lottery twice in one day, we'd still see more and more foreign-born residents. Why? Because they got youth on their side. Sweden has a history of successful immigration, but here's the thing. Not all waves of migration are created equal. The Swedish government is getting real by studying the costs and benefits of migration, country by country. They're finding that the current challenge is integrating a large number of adults who can't read or write and who have many kids. Unlike previous waves where people from similar cultures slid into jobs smoothly, this time it's a bit more complicated. Well, for starters, many media and politicians have been living in a bubble of blissful ignorance. They've been brushing off criminal dangers and turning a blind eye to the rise of radical ideas. But guess what? The chickens are now coming home to roost. Sweden might end up with a radical Islamist party in parliament by 2026. Yep, you heard that right. The party's even got a catchy name, Nuance. Funny how that works, huh? Now, back in the day where almost everyone in Sweden was Christian, but times have changed. Less than 60% are Christians now, and the Muslim population is on the rise. We might even see a majority Muslim population in Sweden before the century's out. But here's the real surprise. Some people want to shake things up even more. They're talking about having different sets of rules for different groups, like Sharia law for Muslims. Crazy, right? Now pay attention to this. The new non-socialist coalition government, which took charge after the September 2022 election, is on a mission to tackle the crisis head-on. Justice Minister Gunnar Strömmer is all about making a systemic change, shifting the focus from rehabilitating offenders to supporting victims. Taking a page from Denmark's playbook, they're rolling out tougher measures. Think longer sentences for serious crimes, double trouble for gang members, and special slammer for young troublemakers. They're also arming law enforcement with new tools, like the right to electronically monitor gang members and setting up special zones where cops can search without a warrant. And if that's not enough, they're expanding the real estate market too, but not for homes, for prisons. They're even thinking about renting space abroad. Now that's what I call thinking outside the cell, but will it be enough to turn the tide? Time will tell. See, Denmark pulled off a similar feat because they started early, before things got out of control. But Sweden? Yeah, they kind of missed the memo and they're not exactly copying Denmark's homework. Why? Well, because it would mean shaking things up big time. We're talking about spreading out migrants across different areas and making sure their kids learn the local language and values. But Sweden's not going all in on this idea, mainly because their current plan is already seen as pretty radical. Heck, even predicting the outcome of the next election is like trying to guess the winning lottery numbers. Now, let's talk worst-case scenario. Ever heard of Immanuel Kant? Yeah, he had this idea that if you want something, you gotta be willing to do what it takes to get it. But here's the punchline. If Sweden keeps dragging its feet and people get used to seeing chaos on the streets, those old-school leftist ideas are gonna start creeping back in, and that's not gonna help anyone. But hey, the game's not over yet. The next election isn't until September 2024, and the government might just pull a rabbit out of their hat by then. Beyond the political circus, the real issue here is whether legislation and law enforcement alone can fix the deep-rooted problems in our society. If Sweden can't find a way to bridge the gap between different groups, they might just have to get used to living in a world where gangs call the shots. And believe me, that's not a party anyone wants to be invited to. Now, I'm curious about your thoughts on Sweden's current situation and its future. What are your thoughts about it? Share them in the comments below. For more such videos and hot topics, check out our next video and don't forget to subscribe.